I'm Randy Wishhusen. I'm 77 years old. I'll be 78 in March. I'm young enough to rock, old enough to die. I was 8 years old when I started drumming, and luckily for me, my grandfather played drums, and my mom played drums in high school. So I was becoming a third-generation drummer and had lots of support. When I was in high school, I was a real dork. I was really nerdy. But drumming gave me a status, and being able to play a drum solo for 10 minutes, I got the recognition of the jocks. And so it kind of saved me from being a total misfit in high school. And in college, it was social. I mean, you got together and play with your friends, and it was one of those things that I got to do all the cool parties that the fraternities and the sororities did, but I got paid to be there. Went to Ohio University. I enjoyed it. It was the perfect place. But the sophomore year, I met up with some guys at the end of my freshman year, said, we're going to put a band together. We were called the SAM, S-A-A-M, which stood for Sex Appeal and Animal Magnetism. Or later on, it was Stoned as a Motherfucker. They were a house band for this place, and it was called Igor's, and they decided to bring in a nightclub singer and have this bar set up like a nightclub, and this guy was doing like Engelbert Humperdinck and Tom Jones and stuff like that, and we were hired to back him up, and they hired us individually as musicians. They didn't want a band. The management wanted the ability to be able to fire any one of us with everybody else. Well, you get guys together, they're a band. And then when I graduated from college, I wound up with a job working at Xerox in upstate New York, and there was nothing to do, so I put an ad in the paper, drummer available, play all different styles. I get this call from a guy that says, you ever played country? Well, anyway, that band was called the Don and Tony Show, and we would play somewhere every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And we did a lot of fundraisers for small town fire departments and charities or whatever, and we would furnish them with a complete show. We had the capability of bringing in people from Nashville and calling it a Grand Ole Opry show, and these people would come up and play a weekend with us, and on our credit, and then we would back them up. So I did that for a couple of years, and we had our own Greyhound bus, and like I said, we played somewhere in upstate New York. Actually, we played Canada and we played Pennsylvania. It was a show. There was 7 people in it, and everybody sang. We would come in and play and get the hell out of there before they felt we weren't any, saw that we weren't any good. But we were a big time show. It wasn't until I moved to Cleveland, or back to Cleveland, that I started getting back into the music thing just by sitting in with people. And one of my employees on my regular job and myself decided we were going to form a rhythm and blues band. And so we put together a band called the Cruise Masters. And it took off actually too fast. People were booking us before we were ready to come out, so the only way we could get around that was have an opening band, who actually was better than we were. And so people would come in and hear that opening band and say, whoa, these guys are pretty good. The Cruise Masters must be really, really good. But by the time we were playing, they were drunk enough that they didn't know. But until we learned enough songs to do a night. We were a fun band. We were kind of like the Blues Brothers. We came out in suits, or dressed up, and we had choreography. And and we had 2 saxes, and they would do this stuff, and it was a show. I mean, people would just be in the audience, just like, and we were crazy. But that band went on. I was with them 14 years, and we opened up for the Guess Who. We opened up for the Romantics. We did the thing with the Turtles. We did a lot of cool stuff, and We also played the public square for the lighting ceremonies where they dressed us up like elves. So I was in the elf tones. It was the Cruise Masters. And And from there, I had to take some time off because my dad, we were in a family business, and my dad's health was just starting to deteriorate, and I just decided I needed to spend more time just catching up and running a business. So I quit the Cruise Masters, who went on for another 15 years, wound up in a partnership with a father and son, and we had a band called The Next Best Thing, and it was just a trio. But we played everything, all kinds of different music. I decided I would just bring a snare drum, a cymbal, and congas. I made the full circle and back to playing with brushes like I did with my mom. And it caught on. That band went on a good 10 years. See, I can't remember what happened after that band. Well, no, I did. I wound up sitting in with a bunch of guys that played anything with a steel guitar, and they were called the Woodpeckers. Interesting band. We would do anything that you could use a pedal steel, but we would also do Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and we would do Eagles, pre-Joe Walsh Eagles. And that band did really well for about 5 or 6 years, and then about a year ago, the steel player decided he'd want to try something different, and that was the end of the band. Then this year, I'm winding up subbing as a substitute drummer because I've played all these different styles. So it's turned out to be keeping me pretty busy. There's about four or five different bands I've played for in the last year. So much, but that's a pretty long, drawn-out thing. But that's what I'm doing now. My wife and I met at OU, and specifically we met on the upstairs of the Union Tavern, which is still there. And it kind of looks the same, But it was basically a stroke of luck. A friend of mine was coming into town, and we went out, and there was a bunch of girls, and the only way, in those days, if you wanted to try and, get some attention, you wound up going to them and getting a couple of them to dance, and then that breaks up the gaggle of girls, and that's how I met my wife. And we dated for a couple of years while going to OU, and then been married 53 years. So, so that's another thing. I'm real lucky to have somebody who allows me to play drums. I should have worked harder when I took lessons in high school. My teacher was a tough guy. I mean, and as far as he was concerned, I was his youngest student, and he told my parents, I either have to hold up my end or he's not going to waste his time and their money. So there was a pressure to do well. The guy was just incredible. But he taught me how to play from in here. I mean, you'd read the music and it's written. And you go, no, that's not how you do it. It's got to swing. You got to, okay, now you play it. So now you make it swing. And that's carried me more than anything in my whole life is I can swing. But I think drumming has kept me in pretty good shape. As I said, I'm 77 years old. I'm going to be 78 in March. And I don't have any pain. I've got movement. And I'm blessed in that respect that I'm able to still do it. And when I'm playing, I don't feel old. If I'm looking, I don't feel old until I look in the mirror. When I first started playing drums, I told my mom I wanted to be a drummer when I grew up, and she said, Randy, you can't do both. So I've never grown up. The biggest challenge that I've faced during my musical career as well as life has been poor eyesight. To the point that when I was 16, I couldn't get a driver's license. It kept me from reading, being able to sight read music because I was so nearsighted. I had to have the music right there, and And you just didn't see the whole page at once. It was very difficult to, unless you practiced it a lot. I mean, I couldn't just walk in and sight read something right off the bat, which my drum teacher was capable of doing. I'll be smiling when I play usually, and if I'm having a good time, sometimes, you wound up daydreaming or something and forget what you're doing. It's a blast, and it feels good when people are having fun watching you. If you're transmitting happiness to the audience, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're making them feel good and going home feeling better than they were before they came, then you've done your job.